you say it on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, hunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are views.
Good morning again. Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio with my brothers for another. We have filled that vacant chair. The Rhodes Scholar is here late this morning, but we won't hold that against him.
Thank you, John.
And the doctor is here.
Yeah, he's here safely, so that's the important part.
Exactly.
But I'm in the house, man.
Yeah, the doctor's here. He had
And I'm giving a checkup from the neck up, and I'm finding that as it relates to our country, it's not very healthy.
It's not. Whoa, what's the diagnosis, doctor? What's the forecast?
Sad.
Everything is being attacked. Like I say, you're in academia. You've been in law enforcement for a long time. You see it in real time. That's why I say, when you see these things, and because we have had to adhere to the law, the rule of law, right? In that, saying that no one is above the law. And now that has really shifted. And it's a matter of, do folks really want to live in a society where there are no laws? Because if that's the case, then if everyone is, no one is above the law, but then certain people, there's carve-outs, then why would I obey the law, right? Why should I not blow through the red light? Why should I not be able to walk into the store and take whatever I want?
Well, see, but the sad part about it, Larry, is that we have people out there like our previous caller who feel that Donald Trump should have the latitude and the support from society to do to carry out his plan, although they're intelligent and honest in society sees that plan is becoming is a dictatorship,
right?
All right, but he want to carry it out and then see what happens. Well, you know what happens after that? Then anarchy,
right?
War, blood. So
right.
why wait until that happens? Why not prevent it before it happens? And so that's where we're heading. He's tearing down our institutions,
right.
And he's doing it under the umbrella of greed, under the umbrella of waste. I'm doing this because there's a lot of waste. Well, we all know that there's waste in government, but you don't have to tear down the institutions to actually to address it.
Right. But also to that point, Dr. Bradley, this is coming from someone who didn't pay its taxes, right? That was found liable and guilty of defrauding the government, right? Not paying his fair share. Sexually assaulting women, has been in bankruptcy, and he's doing to the country what he's done to all of his companies, right? Bankrupted his casino, the airlines, anything, the things that have been prosperous. His name, for some people, had carried a lot of weight. A lot of the buildings that had his name on them, he didn't even own. People just felt like it was a good marketing brand, right? But everything that he was personally responsible for was in the tank. Was in the tank.
Well, I think a more surreptitious and dangerous individual is Elon Musk. I think Elon is really the de facto president of this nation. He cannot be president outright because he was not born here.
Yeah.
But he bought it. You know what I mean?
There
So
you go.
the fact that he has direct access, I don't care if for 2 days. That's a lot of power to have access to. And he can go into the Pentagon and sit down and be briefed on our why, on plans that we will have with one of the war, if we go to war with one of the most advanced adversaries that we have faced in years, in our history.
Yeah.
How does he get access to that? So I think, and this is Dr. Bradley speaking, that there's something else happening beneath the table here. Right? Donald Trump is just a figurehead. He is not the president.
Right.
I think it's Elon.
Absolutely.
Elon is the one that you have to be very concerned about.
But it was, and I forget what challenge it was, as in the Supreme Court overruled it in why they wanted to take this type of money out of politics, right? And the Supreme Court said, oh, no, you can put in a mini amount because billionaires like Elon Musk, even though he's been losing money, he still is the richest man in the world. he's decided to side with dictators because he comes from South Africa, right, where people didn't have rights, but black people, I should say, did not have rights. He's been in Japan and China and places like that where he has a factory. So, and then they were going to brief him on any attacks on China, and you think he wasn't going to go back? And we still don't know what he was told.
Well, first of all, I mean, think about it. In order to get access to this, he's a civilian. He has not been vetted.
Right.
He does not have a security clearance, so you don't know who he's beholding to, and you're giving him the most critical information that our young kids, not theirs, is going to be our kids who are on the ground fighting this thing.
Did you see how the Secretary of Defense, the clown, right, was there on the front steps greeting him as if he was some head of state? Yeah. Some head of state.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, waiting on the front steps for him as if he was some head of state because the mob boss said, this,
well, actually,
everything's for sale.
He's the boss. Elon is the real guy.
He is.
You know what I mean? Because he's the guy who bought it. You think about
what his son told us.
Well, his son said, "You're not the real president."
Elon. I mean, all the behavior. I see two things there. And this is just me speaking here, but I see two things here. I see the way that Elon is operating, he is really the person who's calling the shots. And the way that Trump is operating, he has all the behavior of a Russian asset.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because the things that he's doing, it doesn't make any sense unless you're actually working on behalf of that particular country.
If you watch Donald Trump, and most of the time when Elon Musk is in there, Donald Trump is sitting there like you have an elderly parent that doesn't know where they are. It's like, remember that Ross Perot when he was running for president and he had his vice president, this old guy that looked like he brought him out of the nursing home. And he asked him, well, why am I here? Because he didn't have a clue about what was taking place around him, right? Yeah. And that's what he just looks like he's in a fog. It's like it's a TV show for him, and he's looking for ratings because he can't. Whenever there's a camera, and they know this, he cannot avoid. Most presidents are too busy to be dealing with. Like the other day, you saw him at the Kennedy Center, right? And he had all those guys move back. I don't want anyone else in this shot. It's like, hey, you got the camera. So this is reality. This is affecting people's lives.
Yeah.
Speaking of which. The mayor had a State of the City address this week. I don't know. Did you get a chance to watch it, Rhodes?
Unfortunately,
Did you, Dr. Bradley?
No.
I watched pieces of it. I was not very.
What was your takeaway?
I wasn't thrilled at all.
What was your takeaway?
I thought it felt flat on me. It felt like she's a very good orator. You know what I mean? She did a very good job speaking, in my opinion. But what she was speaking about did not make much sense to me, knowing what's happening in the city of Boston.
I heard of recent, and no pun intended, that she's been backpedaling on bike lanes a little bit. You got it. Because they're not as popular. But this is why I tell people pay attention.
They're not as popular. They're empty all the time. Maybe you have one or two people that use that bike lane.
Who use them in the snow, in the rain, and the cold, right? Because most people, this is not a warm climate state where you have conditions year round where you could, kind of suck it up and go out there and ride your bike in Florida in 30 degrees because you're not going to have snow. But that's not the case. Well, they did have a little this year in certain parts, but that's a rarity. You can't do that here. And the amount of money that we're spending, particularly when you're saying that when you have raised people's property taxes, you're shuttering schools, and housing is through the roof, the cost, right? I don't think I heard the little bit I did hear I didn't see anything that addressed that. I mean, there were.
That's where that's what, I heard that, and I'm saying to myself, so how are you addressing the astronomical cost of housing in Boston? Right. How are you addressing the black force out, the black flight, because of economics? So you're how are you addressing these issues without, but she just used some very colorful language to kind of dress it up. But in actuality, when you pull the layer back, she's not doing much to address those problems.
Well, and one of the things I thought she was going to talk, because the city just awarded, it was an article in the paper, and this was a foregone conclusion because, the city has been talking about flagmen here with the Boston Police contract, and what jumped out at me early on in that contract was that in there, which historically I'd never seen before in a contract awarding anything other than to the union that was there before them, that the union had included that Ed Davis, the former police commissioner of Boston and Lowell, also who has been capitalizing on that ever since the Boston Marathon, is now the recipient, it says here in this last week's edition of the Bay State Banner, city contract for civilian flag management awarded to former BPD commissioner Ed Davis. And it goes on to say it was years long effort to persuade city officials and police unions to allow civilians to take on the paid construction details that have long been the exclusive domain of police officers. When the administration of Mayor Michelle Wu in 2023 inked a contract with the patrolmen's union that allowed civilians to work details, many activists were encouraged. But now that the city has awarded the contract to a firm to manage civilian flaggers, as those work details are referred to, some say the process was rigged. The Edward Davis company, led by former Boston Police Department Commissioner, was announced as a successful bidder on the contract Friday. Larry Ellison, former head of the Massachusetts Association of Minority Law Enforcement Officers, said the language in the city's 23 contract with the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association all but assured Davis would get the contract, containing stipulations that the firm managing civilian flaggers be Massachusetts organizations with law enforcement experience. You know, and it goes on here. Let me just grab this here so we can finish it up here. That has knowledge of how the pay detail system operates in the city of Boston, and that the city entity has a minimum of 3 years experience providing traffic for outside traffic control. The Ed Davis company, which has a contract to manage civilian flaggers at Logan International airport, is only firm in the state that has such experience. When you put in language like that, you've pretty much written it for Ed Davis, Ellison said. It was written to exclude everyone but Ed Davis. And you know, I said this was Michelle Wu doing a favor for a friend. So I'm saying this is no different than Trump, you know, advertising Teslas on the White House lawn, you know, for Elon Musk. You know, but this goes to how do you get that experience, Dr. Bradley? That Ed Davis is when Willie Gross was the first black police commissioner in the history of the Boston Police Department. So up until he came along, there was no black person that was the head of an organization such as this that would even be in contention for that, right? So you set it up and then you write it and then you include him in the contract. And this is someone, Ed Davis, if people have short-term memories, was the same police commissioner who MAMLEO took, and the Patrolmen's Association, as well as the NAACP, took a vote of no confidence at MAMLEO headquarters because when he had an opportunity to promote black sergeants with the same mark as whites, he promoted all whites until the pushback.
And he had a gross discipline, a gross and very obvious distinction between disciplinary actions against people of color versus white people.
Well,
it was very obvious.
He's the one that implemented the policy, Dr. Bradley, on untruthfulness, right, in the Boston Police Department. And the only remedy, if you're found untruthful in the Boston Police Department, is termination.
Yes. But certain folks were not untruthful. They were just
inaccurate reporting. Right. When if you were certain individuals, particularly people that had no melanin in them,
exactly,
it was inaccurate reporting.
Yeah. So the man is grossly unfair, in my opinion. And but that's not the hit. The hit here is that the city of Boston wrote an RFP under the 30B law to actually give that contract to him and him only.
But I think it goes further than that. People don't understand, Dr. Bradley, that once they got caught and people started saying, wait a minute, this was in the original contract from the 2023 contract with the Patrolmen's Union. It was written in there that first it would go to active duty, then retirees, then local law enforcement partners. And then the fourth one was Ed Davis's company. I'm like, where was the bit? Okay, I had no problem with the other law enforcement because that's how it worked. You know, if you can't fill it, another agency that has police powers, right? The colleges, right? They even included them. But to include a civilian and say there's no conflict of interest, and yet when Eddie Crispin, right, was a deputy superintendent, and he was tasked when I stepped down from the post commission, and he was tapped to be there. They said it was a conflict of interest for him serving on the post in an independent thing that doesn't pay. Only if it only pays if you're most of the meetings. If most of them, like for me, It happened during work hours, so you couldn't build. So this here, Ed Davis is going to profit from this, and someone who has, and this was supposed to be to help. I remember them having these hearings to help promote people of color, because these details are going to pay somewhere around $60 an hour, right? You think Ed Davis is going to be hiring black people?
No, he's not.
Go look at his website.
Yeah. No, he's not. He's not.
Go look at his website.
Look at what's there.
There's no one on his team that looks like us.
He repudiates the idea of black people being in the same room with him.
Right, and even he was part of the search for Commissioner Cox. In my opinion, he's the one who selected Commissioner Cox, because I think he felt like he would be the easiest one to set this up for him. Right, so that's not a conflict.
All day long.
His former head legal person is now Michael Cox's chief of staff at the Boston Police Department.
All day long.
That's not a conflict.
Yep.
That this conversation had to take place with them to be able to award him this. That's not a conflict.
Wink, wink, nod, nod.
You know, folks.
Smoke and mirrors.
Pay attention. Yeah. Good morning, Eric. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning, gentlemen. I want to move back to our mayor, and here we are in Boston. A lot of residents are facing these huge utility bills and can't pay those, and all these other things going on, but yet she can spend almost $1 million to prepare for her Congress testimony.
Okay.
And not only was it an absurd amount, she went outside the city and the state to hire a law firm from New York City instead of keeping the money here.
So what are we paying for? And I said this numerous times, and Dr. Bradley, what are we paying for this in-house counsel that the city has on payroll? Because this doesn't seem like, from what I saw her testify, this wasn't like she was being, criminal charges or anything. So what was it that we paid on $700,000? I'm sure that was the bill at the time. I'm sure it's closer to $1 million now. You're right. What were we paying for it as taxpayers, paying taxes? Because I do pay taxes in the city of Boston on properties. What were we paying all that money for when you have in-house counsel that they couldn't consult you and look at your script that you were going to read? And so then why do we have them? Why do we have them on the payroll?
And you don't need a lawyer to do that. I could have did that for her.
Well, in a cut rate price as well. I know, because every lawsuit that we brought, and we've brought many against the city of Boston, they've had to go outside counsel so that's a huge bill that the city taxpayers foot the bill for. But you're right. From what I saw, I didn't see it, but this also here was an opportunity with these flagmen to have someone who was going to be fair, who had a track record of being fair and equitable. Ed Davis does not have that, and that you would award a contract to someone that MAMLEO, the Patrolmen's Association at the time, and NAACP took a vote of no confidence against. You think he's going to be hiring black people? And then take a look at his leadership team.
Yeah.
It looks like the Trump administration.
Yeah, well,
so
I don't know what to say, man.
Eric, stand by. I think we have another caller. We're going to get them way in and we'll get back. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning, friends. How you doing?
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, no, I was adding in to make a point of saying how with the way that even, let alone Ed Davis, it's like there should be audits. Whether it be audits of her bill of however much she spent at that hearing. It's like you hear that hearing, it was essentially them reading off a script. It's like one after the other after the other. There needs to be an audit of that of taxpayer funds. Two, it's like when it comes to the whole Davis thing and hiring flaggers, you're going to tell me with all the colleges and universities in the area, all the police departments in the area, that they ran through all active and retired, and they still couldn't find people, and so then they had to hire Ed Davis and his people and his company? It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Someone's got to be auditing that, because that makes no sense at all whatsoever. That with as many people as we have around here, whether it be law enforcement officers across all the different agencies in and around the city of Boston, find it very difficult to believe that they couldn't find enough people to fill those jobs.
But also, I think it's even more troubling.
What kind of kickback is going on there?
Well, that's what I'm talking about. What you'll see as people, matter of fact, what's even more concerning is one of the folks who was part of the Ed Davis team was a deputy superintendent, was appointed by Ed Davis. I don't know if you're aware of this, Dr. Bradley. This is to me is a smoking gun. The deputy superintendent, he was a sergeant at the time. He was promoted by Ed Davis to deputy superintendent, and he was placed in charge of labor relations, right? Mm-hmm. So he was instrumental in writing this contract. And a week after he left, he went over to join the Ed Davis firm.
Yeah. He wrote himself a contract.
Oh, my God.
Okay. So you have to say, oh, is this just a coincidence? Is this a coincidence? The person who was the architect of the contract, promoted by Ed Davis.
And now he's working for
writes Ed Davis into the contract, and now he works over there.
So he's a part of the Ed Davis firm.
Yes,
and he's part of the leadership team?
Yes, exactly. Wow. On prominent display.
Wow.
Right. But
there's no end to this. There's no end to this, man. But
I don't know how people are outraged with that, because, like I said, these, $60 an hour is not bad. If the flag person is getting $60 an hour, what is that Davis collecting? He also already has Massport. Governor Healy gave him a very lucrative contract to investigate the housing of people in these shelters. Even Big Papi hired him when he got shot. So he's cleaning up. He already. When does someone that looks like us get an opportunity? And then they say, well, you have to have this experience. How do you obtain this experience if you're never given an opportunity to be in that leadership role? Eric, I want to hear from you, and then I'm going to pick back to Helen.
I wanted to also talk about, I know you guys are talking about Ed Davis and stuff, but I'm on.
Oh, that's all combined. No, go ahead.
But many years ago, I was the general manager of our women's pro football team. And when we moved from Medford to Boston, tried to move from, Rhode Island to Boston, we tried to get White Stadium, and they turned us down because we wanted to sell alcohol. And they said we couldn't use White Stadium. And now to find out that they're pretty much giving it away to a women's soccer league. And to find out that there was backhand dealings, and they met with the group that is bringing them here before it went up for bid.
Well, this is why I say, what is the difference between Mayor Wu and what she's doing on these deals and Ed Davis, except she does it with a nicer smile? Because
oh, Larry,
corruption with a smile.
I'm smiling at you as I stab you in the back.
Right, because this is the same thing. It's right. It's that people are prospering from it. And those who you claim that you want to help, right? These are opportunities, right? How many people of color are going to benefit from the deal she made at White Stadium? How many people are going to benefit from this contract that she signed with of color Ed Davis, right?
Well, actually, going to have Ed Davis staff out there, flag guys out there, doing the traffic when they're demolishing and rebuilding that area.
There you go.
But I think that's the beginning of the end for that part of Roxbury. To be honest with you,
it's almost cost prohibitive. You see an increase in Randolph Public Schools and Brockton from people from Boston because it's not much cheaper, but it's a little more affordable in those neighborhoods, right? That's why they're shuttering the doors on all these schools. Who do you think is going to get those buildings? Because you think that some developers that's familiar with the Wu administration is not saying, hey, shut this one. They want to close that building down there. They've been trying to close the Snowden School down on Newberry Street forever.
But how about the West Roxbury High School?
Okay, right.
Because that's prime land.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So you can see that developers are just salivating over that,
and
over getting that particular land.
Is the McKinley School down in the South End, right? That one is they quietly are closing that one, right?
Okay.
Because that one is right down from the old District 4 that is now high-end condominiums in the old headquarters, right? You see how prosperous those buildings.
Yep. So that become demolished, and you put another building up there, and then next thing you know, you got a high-rise, a residence.
Warren Avenue.
Yeah. Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
Yeah.
But you see, the thing is that they do it so quietly, and it's
so
like
they do it on the open. But the problem is we talked about earlier is that our folks don't pay attention. We don't push back. We just there's nothing we can do. There is something you can do. It's called voting.
Yeah, exactly.
Called voting. But when you don't vote,
that's what happens.
You just sit back and take it on the chin. Eric, any final marks? Phones are blazing here. Folks want to get in on this conversation. Before we let you go, Eric?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'll continue to listen.
All right,
Love
thank
you
you.
guys.
Appreciate you. Likewise, brother. One of my classmates from South Boston High. Helen, any final marks before we have to get some phones? Everybody wants to have a word in on this one.
Yeah, sure. I actually have some comments
Sure,
to
go
follow
ahead.
up from.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I have some comments, actually. Well, on the Wu topic, and then also to follow back up on what we had last week as well. Kind of just to straighten out Jamal from last week. Taiwan, where at times Wu will claim it's like is the ROC, as in the Republic of China. So it's like all those flags in Chinatown after the People's Republic of China flags mysteriously went up and then down after Wu got elected. Those flags are Republic of China flags. So it's like, just to be very clear, at no time is it ever okay for non-Chinese to use a slur of the C word, as it's never okay for non-black people to use the N word, especially Mayor Wu's chief of
And
communications.
so, for full disclosure, Helen, so people, because they probably can't get it from your tone, from your voice, what is your nationality? Because people don't think we would pick.
Oh yeah, my family is from China and Hong Kong.
Okay,
So my family comes from that
So I
area.
want people to know that
yeah.
this is, no, she's not somebody who's not, of the background. She understands it. So that's
Exactly.
So just want people to be
And,
clear.
and Michelle Wu makes a point of claiming herself to be Chinese because Taiwan is part of China. And it's like, and the point being is that when she hires someone like to be her chief of communications who so cavalierly used it doesn't matter if Jamal mentioned about his daughter being, half Panay. It's like someone saying that they have a black friend or an Asian friend, but a little closer. It's like you can't excuse behavior like that just because. And there's a reason why so many people voted for Trump and up about 10% in Boston. It's because of all the stuff that Wu's been pulling, and it makes people, fed up.
Right.
It's like in 2009, just to go how far back to give a point, a legal immigrant from China was raped by an El Salvadorian national while she was out collecting cans. I caught him, tackled him with another officer. BPD covered it up to also help cover for some compromised cops. So all that happened was that the rapist was deported. Then years later, I was outside the station where I was assigned, and in Spanish, the rapist says, "Hello, officer," to me. It freaking made me sick. And that's the kind of stuff that Michelle Wu knew about even as city councilor, whatever it may be. It's like, that's the kind of stuff that she basically just lets go. And you talk about why people aren't outraged. Maybe it's because they're trying to find ways to pay their immense tax bills, pay for the cost of living and how expensive it is to live in Boston anymore. They make people so overly focused on trying to just put food on their table and a roof over their head that they don't have the ability to see what's going on.
Speaking
all
of
the
which,
shenanigans she's pulling.
Helen, we gotta let you, because the phones are really. Folks really want to get in on this conversation. So please call back. I just want to grab these other callers and bring them in. Thank you.
We appreciate your comments.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a call after the broadcast as well, because we need to catch up. All right.
Yeah, we'll catch up.
Okay. All right. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning. Yeah, I saw Michelle Wu's speech, the whole thing, and once again, she was reading the same old script, and she left out a whole lot of stuff.
I wonder if it cost us $1 million as it did the congressional speech. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. She left out that Boston is still one of the most expensive cities to live in America, because I know, because I'm living proof of it.
Okay.
She also failed to mention that she didn't say anything about dismantling the bike lanes, but people like me didn't want to anyway. She didn't say anything about predictably not closing, how she was closing these schools in the district, like the the Devon in Dorchester, and the other three, the South Boston High School, and
the XL, my old the old South Boston High.
Yep. The one in JP and the one in Austin Brighton. She gave herself a pat on the back with the bus debacle of last year, and she claimed that she wants Boston to be number one for everything the country wants to follow, including education, even though the Department of Education has been dismantled thanks to Donald Trump.
Wow.
I'm being sarcastic about that.
Yeah. No.
And it's just getting to a point now that She's trying to play superhero.
Did she mention anything about the People's Academy? Did she mention anything about? She did. Did she mention anything about how she was going to help get that? Did she mention, like you said, anything about lowering the property taxes for the people in Boston who are taking it on the chin? No. The things that really impact people's lives, like I said, she does it with a smile and people fall for it. And shame on folks, like I said, you get the government you deserve. Because I didn't even watch it because, like I said, if I wanted to watch a horror movie, I'd have turned one on. So it didn't interest me because I've heard these lies before. And that's all they are. It's election time, and now you're going to tell people how you're going to make things better. You ran on making things better. You've had 4 years, and in which she had, which most people aren't paying enough attention to, she had an influx of cash from COVID that the city had. And now, after that's gone, we're broke. So these, what were they, just drunk sailors, just spending money? Dick, stand by. I want to bring this other call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Good morning. Is that me?
It's you. Go ahead. Oh, Jamal.
All right, Jamal back again.
Yes.
So I just wanted to correct. And I don't know if Helen is still there or what. But
no, she's not.
The only point that I was making, because far be it from me to get into international affairs, is the fact that the time when these people have in fact been fighting for their independence, we understand it's part of China, but that's like Ukraine was part of Russia, right? And so I think that, that was my only point, and I'm not defending anybody. And
so let me ask you, Jamal.
Anybody who uses a
right, and you don't have to comment if you don't want to. But did you watch the State of the City address?
No, I've only seen clips.
Okay.
And my comments is, look, there's a lot of stuff with her that I agree with, her being the mayor. And then there's stuff that I don't agree with as well. A lot of people seem to get the impression like I'm just some sort of rubber stamp. I'm not. I'm like
no,
her,
and that's what I respect about
the way
you.
I'm with everybody.
And that's
But the one thing I can say is what I've said before. She is a sharp cookie. Of all the critiques that everybody has had, nobody's called her stupid.
No.
You know what I mean? So, she can articulate her own point. She can speak for herself. She is a big girl and more than capable of handling her own stuff. So that to me is indicative of what we saw at the congressional hearing. And this, even though she's, small, diminutive or whatnot, she's not no punk. So I think, what I saw her speaking loud to D.C., although I'm not really a fan of that because I don't think it's going to make our life
I don't either. I agree. But that's
easier.
all that's all a campaign ad that was being presented for later.
But other than that, I really have no, super glaring issues with her. The stuff that I disagree with her on, in my view, is minor.
And but see, mine's a little bit bigger than minor because and it's not personal. Like I have no personal dislike of Michelle Wu. I think as a person, she's somebody I could sit down and have a comment. But on her policies, on her, I think for me the hypocrisy with her is that I've had many conversations with her when she was a city council, when she was a president. I went there, issues that were affecting the organization that I was the president of, and a lot of what she said was one of the reasons why she ran was because she felt she was not being heard. She was being ignored, and then she turns around and, in my opinion, does the same thing with a lot of people. I know what's best for you. That's not the approach for government. That's not a good leader. You have to take in from other people, because I've been working for the city before she was even born, longer than she's been on this earth. I've been, giving and working. So I think I add some value to the conversation, and you're just listening to people who weren't even thought of, weren't even, as they said back in the day, weren't even an itch in their daddy's pants. And now those are the people that your advisors.
I heard that one before.
It's concerning that it's no different than what Trump is. Just I have people that I only listen to, and if you're not going to just hear what I want to be heard, like I said, you don't want my opinion, you want my approval. That doesn't work. It doesn't work in a democracy. So that is my take on Michelle Wu. It's not personal. And Pastor Hobb, you have some comments?
Yeah.
Probably about what I just said, right?
No, actually.
Dr. Bradley's the itch.
No. S.B. John says, good morning. Who is on the board, quote unquote, that awards such contracts?
It's the mayor. The mayor has people around her, and they supposedly put an RFP out. But I mean, you can't say that you have an RFP when it's already was written into the contract, the patrolman's contract, which is unheard of to have something like that awarded to someone. And people say, well, we never had flagmen before. So the bid should have went out before it was awarded, because you had already awarded it to him.
Well, first of all, you're not the only state, the only city that's using flagmen.
Right.
And so you have people who are already doing it. Second of all, the RFP, for those who's actually listening, may ask the question, what is the RFP? It's a request for a proposal.
Right.
So when you're actually doing a contracting services beyond, I think, $10,000, maybe $12,000, you have to write a request for a proposal as to the community of people who can provide that service, and see exactly what they propose to, how they're going to provide the service and what the cost is. And usually they go with the lowest bidder, be honest with you. However, in this particular situation, they wrote the RFP because they wanted a particular individual, and that particular individual was Ed Davis.
Exactly. And so this, I have more respect for you if you're saying, you know what, we have a long-term relationship. He helped me pick my police commissioner. I have confidence in,
I have respect for the honesty.
Right. Then to make it seem like, because there was a black firm that put in for this as well.
Yeah, I bet.
And they didn't get it.
Yeah.
And they had just as much experience in law enforcement, matter of fact, more, because Ed Davis, he's not even he came from Lowell.
Yeah.
He has maybe
a whole different level
he had
of
maybe
that type
4 or
of policing.
5 years as police commissioner.
Yeah.
So how does he come in and swoop in with all of this from some little sleepy police town outside of Boston?
And so
And was he actually ever a cop?
he was in controversy because there was a rape case out there in which someone was wrongfully convicted, and he was in charge of that. And when they found out, he's the only one that wouldn't step up and say, "Hey, I got it wrong." That's out of Trump.
No, when you say he was in charge of it, not when he was the commissioner out there, but I'm saying he was an actual patrol officer. At one point?
he I think he obtained the rank of captain, all the way up to the rank of captain.
But he has never been. That's a different level of policing. That's a small town police department. It's not like working in a major city.
Right.
He never worked in a major city police force other than being a commissioner.
Right.
So he doesn't know the nuances of policing in the streets.
Right.
And the fact that they'll write a RFP specifically for him, I think it's appalling, and people need to look at this. This is corruption at the highest level, in my opinion.
Even if not corruption, it's conflict of interest.
I think it's corruption, but okay.
But you know what I'm saying? Because Eddie couldn't serve on the post because they sent this is he is benefiting financially from this. Eddie serving on the post is not benefiting him financially. This is a very lucrative contract, and someone who you'd have to say, well, wait a minute, MAMLEO, the NAACP, and the Patrolmen's Union at the time, a vote of no confidence against him because he wouldn't even promote people. You think he's going to be out there promoting, hiring black people? Go look at his list of people.
I just looked at it.
Okay.
I mean, the closest you get is Q.
Right.
Riley.
And Q Riley was his driver.
Right, he was his driver, yeah.
So, let me bring the guy at the lowest level. You know what I'm saying? To drive me around.
That's the closest you're going to get.
All his top advisors?
Yeah, they're all white.
Okay.
The entire staff is white.
Exactly.
So you have no one there who can understand, what people of color are going through when he's making his policies.
They're not in the room, right?
They're not in the room. They're not at the table.
Exactly. That's
and
what
they're
I'm
going to
talking
hire
about.
someone like that.
Do we
You got
have
to be
another call
kidding
in?
me.
Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table.
Yes, good morning. This is T. Michael Thomas from the People's Academy.
Good morning, T. Michael.
I have to touch on the RFP process, and I'm speaking from experience. I have personally been through 2 different RFP processes. Each time has cost me over $60,000, and I'm telling you, it's a rigged system.
I think this highlights it. No, this highlights it.
I have my receipt.
No, I think this highlights it that, the fixes, and they could tell people but then they'll tell you, you don't have the infrastructure, this is why we can't award you the contract. Well, how are you able to do that? Like right now, one of the, and thank God for the Cruise Construction Company. But when you look at all this construction going on, right, if you're not able to build an infrastructure, then how are you going to compete for these big contracts? If every time you're being told no to be able to build up where you can have 200 or 300 people on your team.
But can I say this, Larry? Even where they put out this ridiculousness on the free land, when you look into the fine print, in order to qualify to even begin to be part of the RFP process, it's already rigged.
Yeah.
You have to read, when folks hear fine print, it's not little fine print, it's the language and the wording. And the system is rigged, and it's skewed to a certain 1% or a certain development group can get every development parcel or building.
No,
and I can prove it.
No, it's the proof is in the pudding. We see it out there as we do. T, thank you. You know, I'll probably see you later this morning. We gotta get some of these call. Thank Dick. Any final remarks before we let you go? Just want to get these lines open.
Yeah, with all respect to Mark Crawford, even the smartest people do make dumb mistakes. And also, the man had all the time in the world. As soon as he got to office to help, Madison Park High School is still just begging the state for more money.
That you raise a valid point there. Thank you, Ditko. You said, Jamal, you said, I know you're down the middle on this, and like I said, I agree. That's one of the things I said I respect about one of many is that you're not saying it can't. And I'm not like people take sometimes when your critique. I'm not even calling it your critique of policies and things. That you have a dislike for someone. I have no dislike for Mayor Wu. I just think that what she has done and the people that she has put in place don't get it, don't understand the dynamics of the city. They don't understand how it's impacting people's lives. And I'm not sure they were up to the task. I mean, like she brought in her chief of staff, I think was from San Francisco. Maybe people think San Francisco and Boston, everything they have in common now is it costs just as much to live in both. Yeah. But tell me about it. I don't really see a lot of that has happened. And I know COVID hit, but they were flush with cash. And now they're broke. At the end of it, when all this money was there, was it properly managed in a way that we see now that we need more money? What happened to all that COVID money? I mean, just flush with cash. Jamal, what do you say before we let you go, brother? Appreciate you. Any final remarks?
Yeah, the only thing I'm going to say too is back to the black and Asian thing too. When I mentioned that my daughter is half Filipino and half black, and obviously I'm the black part. In no way to me is that. Like people do to say, "Oh, I have a black friend," or you know what I mean. It's just not the same. I thought that was a poor comparison. And then too, on my revolutionary tip, unlike a lot of people in America, black Americans in the hood or whatnot, I do have a world view, right? And so I look at the history of struggle, the history of all of our ancient civilizations and whatnot, and this whole race thing and this hierarchy, that's new. We've been getting down together for millennia. Yeah. So for me, I really I treasure all people except the wicked ones. So that's what I'll end on.
No, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And that's one of I think what bonds our relationship, right, is that over the years, and it's only strengthened because we don't always have to agree on the issues. We can still work together, and this is why at this stage in my life I have very little tolerance for foolishness and people who know right from wrong and trying to project what they think somebody else wants to hear while they're auditioning for something at the expense of others. I can't buy into that, and I'm not feeding into it. So call WRKO with that foolishness. We're
hey, let's all meet on Wednesday, and we phone bomb Pastor Dan show.
You got okay. I got you.
Yeah.
All right. Works for me.
Works for me as well.
All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Peace, brother.
617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. We had a meeting. You, Dr. Pastor Hobbs, and I were on the important why we need a daily broadcast. Why people need to financially support this station.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. This is the only one in town, Doc. I mean, like I said at the meeting, they have done a masterful job in quiet and black talk radio in this city, and this is it, and so, but like everything else, this goes, we have nothing, and so you need to support this. Yeah. We need to support this station.
There were two other people who share these airways, LaSalle College and
City of Boston.
Yeah. Do you think that they're going to have these type of conversations?
Not at all.
Do you think they're going to let you sleep during the broadcast?
No, not at all. Or play on your phone while you're broadcasting. You know, but my
What
point
say
is,
you, Rose? How was the party last night?
It was great.
Who will bring you into this conversation?
But on the real side, though, we really do need to support this. You know, I don't know what we can do.
Yeah.
You know, but I think well, I do know what we can do.
Yeah.
You know, we can have people who are listening to the show, who depends on the show,
Right.
to
Call in
inform
and
them,
pledge, make a
call
pledge,
them and
right.
make a pledge to the radio station.
Exactly, and not
You know
to
what I mean?
not to the MAMLEO broadcast.
No, but just
We
to
got
the radio station in
Exactly.
general.
Call in. You know, which we do. You know, we have a free broadcast, and we should just do like they do on public radio, right?
Yeah,
This is
we have a fundraising hour,
right?
basically,
and
kind of like.
folks, if folks don't, even though this will go away. This will go away, folks. This station needs the financial support. You know, we come in here. Yeah, you get us for free.
Mm-hmm.
But the electricity,
Yeah, I mean
the tower, all
you know,
of that.
the FCC licensing,
Right.
all that stuff,
All that-
you have to pay
right.
for.
And
You know, so there are fixed costs associated
Right.
with everything that we do.
right.
And then what you can also do to actually spread the word, people, is understand that we are online, we are streamed online. So you know, if people want to listen to us, they can be anywhere in the world, Florida, anywhere. And
What
they
is
can-
the Cash App? Oh,
$capital BPRTV.
One more time? Oh,
$capital BPRTV.
all right. So
Dollar
folks, hear
sign
that. Make it. It don't have,
capital
listen. You don't have to break the bank.
BPRTV.
We know things are tough right now for folks, right? Everywhere. We get that. But if you could do a $5 a month, you know,
that's $60
trust
a
me.
year. And again, that's that you're supporting something that actually provides vital information to the
Right.
community, and also is a beacon of hope for a lot of people. It's independent information that is brought to you by people with a lot of insightful and experience, and they're again doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They're not being paid to be here. We're volunteering.
Costs us money to come
Yes.
here.
Well, you know, I tell you something. It also costs, and I also mention this to people. Don't think about the opportunity cost. I could be doing a whole lot of other things
Yes,
to make
yes.
money to sit
Exactly.
here and talk about things that or listen to someone who try to use their intelligence to justify stupidity.
Right.
But that's another conversation.
Right.
But I think it's important that people who are listening to us, who come in every morning, we get the same callers, you know, who are actually, and the other folks who are not calling but they're listening.
Absolutely.
They're looking for pure, honest information. Even about our former profession, Larry.
Yes.
They're looking for how do we deal with people who how do we interact with police officers who may be a little bit, you know, hard. You know, how do you deal with? But my point is, this is my point. This will not be here if you're not financially
It's not going to be here
supporting
much
it.
longer at the rate it's going. But also,
Yeah.
like I said, the Brother Rhodes, when he can come in and we ask him, what's going on with our Haitian brothers and sisters, right? We're not going to get that in depth what you were able to articulate to us this morning. Dr. Bradley talking about what's going on in academia, what's going on in the world. You're not getting that. And
No.
if you do, it's going to
and-
be in a
and-
20-second soundbite.
And that's the problem right now with television and the news cycle that we have. It's based on profit. They need to make ratings. So again, informing you is the last thing they want to do. What they want to do is make sure that you're entertained, you're clicking, and you're viewing. They don't care if they're giving you the information. Their whole point is to get the ratings up so they can charge more money for more commercial money, and so that perpetuates that particular business model. But the way we operate is we're actually providing you with information that's unadulterated and is not being dictated by the sponsor or whose agenda they're trying to push or what have you.
Right.
What we're trying to do is actually push the truth, the narrative, so
Right.
that way the people know and have the information and they're informed.
And if you call it propaganda, we're going to call it
Yes.
propaganda.
And that's the unfortunate thing that's happened with our media is the fact that if Donald Trump, if they'd called him from day one when he started speaking lies on the air, and right after
They
he
thought
said
it
the
was
lie,
entertaining.
yeah, if they just said, "Hey, that was a lie, that was not factual," that they'd done, maybe people would have woken up. But the fact that they're like now the woke people are under attack.
Yeah.
You know, like if you speak anything, again, if you're not a loyalist, if you're not kissing his whatever, if you're not under his spell,
Yeah.
you're the problem.
So here's what I'm going to do, right? If you're the third caller to call in this morning, I'm going to give you I'm gonna pull a MAMLEO T-shirt for you. Right? If you're the third caller, call in.
You know, I still haven't got my MAMLEO.
Huh?
I still haven't got my MAMLEO.
Well, it's in the car. See?
Okay. Oh, okay.
Right?
So third caller.
Caller.
Third caller.
He's gonna try to call and get too.
You're gonna be the third caller one time.
Right? Get the third caller call in today. Right? We're gonna we have a MAMLEO T-shirt. Matter of fact, we're gonna do that every broadcast. Is we're gonna MAMLEO has already gotten a commitment from MAMLEO.
And here's the thing too. It's
and
funny.
That's gonna go to
Do you know how many officers of color that I see out on the street? And I always wave to them and say, "Hey, do you know MAMLEO?" They're like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Are you part of it?" And they're like, "No," and I'm like, if you're not, when you have issues, you're gonna need them.
I always told MAMLEO, I keep telling them, I said, when you run your next production of shirts or sweatshirts, instead of just the MAMLEO, but also should say, if you're here long enough, you'll get a turn.
Well, I mentioned that in my Black History Black History speech at MAMLEO, and I also mentioned your name. How you say that.
Did you get a lot of boos and cheers?
No, I got a lot. I got a standing ovation on that one. You know what I mean? And the reason for that is because there's truth to that. There's truth to that. Everyone who actually comes through Boston PD, especially those ones who are actually intelligent enough to call them, it's only a matter of time.
I was talking to someone the other day who had a turn. They called me and looking for advice. Right?
Yeah, it was only a matter of time.
And they said, they said, "Man, I've heard you say that numerous times, and now here I am."
Well, see, but our problem is that we can be the most gullible of all people because they can actually sit out there and say, "This is what you did," and then our people will take it and run with it instead of sitting back and say, "Well, why are you attacking this individual? Why are you not doing this?" I'm going to use you,
Dr. Bradley, because I think you're a perfect example. Someone who I have a lot of love and respect for. I think you are a very intelligent person. You have driven, and this is not me having a roast for you, but you have exemplified yourself in the Boston Police Department. You transformed the communications. You did not have any baggage, and what happened to you, and it should be an example of all the right in doing it, because it's like, wait a minute, I didn't veer off, right? Jimmy Claiborne, right? I can go down the list.
Eddie Crispin,
Commissioner White, right? So I say that because, folks, if it can happen to people like you,
yeah, absolutely,
yeah. Everyone's. Did you have something for us about that?
Yeah, just something.
Yeah.
So Michelle said, she's a former comment that I didn't see. She said, "Turn these two-way streets back to two-way and get rid of the."
Yeah, they got everything's a one-way now.
Really?
Streets of Boston.
A lot of streets.
Well, I was driving to my wife's old station that she retired from District 5, and we were coming in from Dedham, and I'm thinking, because I haven't been there, I'm thinking like, well, this is 2 lanes. She goes, "Honey, you're driving the bike lane." I was like, what? They actually made Center Street out of all the streets in the city, on 1 lane. With and they have no barriers. So when the guy get out of the car, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You got center parking, then you got 1 lane parking, and then you have a bike lane.
Yeah. Hey, have you been down on Columbus Avenue where they're trying? It looks like they're trying to get rid of seniors because you put a bus lane right in the middle of Columbus Ave.
According to Michael from Project Right, he says.
All right, see Harry Scales, man, that brother. He said he just donated $60. God bless and keep up the good work. See,
thank you, Harry.
And he gets that T-shirt, even though he's not number.
And you know what?
See.
And what we want you to do, if you're listening,
did you get it? The donation, it was there. See. Right.
But thank you again. Thank you. But again, like we appreciate the financial support and get it out there as well. So if you are listening to us online, share it with all your friends and family.
Pastor Hobbs, could you put that number out?
Cash App
out again.
Absolutely. $capital BPRTV for Boston Praise Radio and TV.
Okay.
All right.
So it's working.
Hold on a second. Let me do this. I'm gonna put it on my Facebook right now.
And so I think again, if you want this type of content and you want honest, good dialogue about our people, and actually, giving our people the information that they need to make decisions in the voting poll, giving our people information to make decisions to confront their representative, giving our people good information about what's happening in their community. This is what we have right now, legal in the
FCC
city
license,
of Boston.
right? The only
This is
FCC
it.
license.
This is the only FCC licensed talk black radio that we have in the city.
Yeah.
We're asking for your support.
Yeah.
We're asking the people who are actually listening to the show and all people who are not maybe not be aware of it. We're asking for your support. Can you go to Sirius Radio? Yeah, you can go to the Joe
They don't talk about local
the Joe
issues.
Madisons and so,
Yeah,
but they don't talk about the local issue.
No,
And you don't have a
We're
voice.
talking about the local
exactly.
issues.
You can't call in and
Exactly.
and have it because you
So
good luck
please,
trying to get through.
please support this radio
Absolutely.
station. We're
So-
asking for your support.
So is
Dollar
it-
sign capital BPRTV.
One more time.
Dollar sign.
Capital
BPRTV.
All right. I think
Is it
we-
all capitals, sir?
All
All
capitals.
capitals. All right. I think that's going to do it for us. Again, thank you, Brother Harry. Thank you for all our listeners. Like I said, listeners become supporters of At the Round Table. But not this on this really is going to the broadcast. This is not for us per se. Hey, this is for Boston Praise Radio.
Radio.
You've been listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. Again, thank you all for listening. Such spirit.